Welcome to the Life Doula Podcast. I'm Charity, your Life Doula, and your companion in the conversations we often fear but deeply need. This is a first in the Life Doula Podcast because we're having a two-part series. So today is part one. Now let's be honest. Talking about illness, grief, or death isn't easy. Sometimes it feels too heavy, too awkward, and too soon. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't protect us from the pain. It only isolates us in it. In this special series, The Conversations We Fear But Need, we're breaking the silence with honesty, hope, and heart. We'll talk about how to have the hard conversations about dying without killing the mood or shutting down the room. We'll unpack why pretending you're fine after cancer does more harm than good, and how to open up even when it feels scary. We'll explore how to talk about death with tenderness without overwhelming our hearts. We'll even dive into the messy grief we don't often admit, like losing someone we had complicated feelings about. And we look at how to prepare a spiritual will. A will is not just living behind material things, but love, memories, and wisdom that lives on. There aren't easy conversations, but they are sacred ones. And you are safe here to listen, to reflect, to feel, and maybe even to begin the conversations you've been carrying quietly inside you. So settle in, breathe deep, and let's walk through this together. How to talk about dying without killing the mood. Today, we're breaking one of the deepest silences. How to talk about dying without fear, without that awkwardness, and without losing the warmth and the heart of the moment. How do we really talk about dying? Devoid of fear, without that awkwardness, and without losing the warmth and heart that makes life so precious in the first place. Here's one truth. Death is certain. It is part of life. But how or if we talk about it can shape everything. How we love, how we live, how we let go. So today, let's find a softer, braver way to begin. The thing is, most of us aren't afraid of death itself. We're afraid of what death means: loss, pain, sufferings, endings, and the unknown. And because it's uncomfortable, we often avoid the conversation altogether. Or we change the subject. We make a joke. We tell ourselves, not now, maybe someday. But again, here's another truth. Talking about dying doesn't bring death closer. Or let me put it a simpler way. When we open ourselves up to talking about death, we are not attracting it to happen sooner. What it does is it brings people closer. It opens doors and creates spaces for love, honesty, forgiveness, and legacy. It reminds us that what matters most isn't the time we have, but how we spend it. I have had the pleasure of sitting with people who are grieving, but a particular friend of mine I was sitting with, and I remember when we knew she didn't have that much time left. All of us, there's 8 of us, knew that she didn't have much time. At first, everyone tiptoed around the obvious. We talked about the weather, what's happening, celebrities, what's upcoming, TV shows, series that everyone's watching, everything except the thing that mattered most. And one day she just said, almost laughing, it's okay to say the word dying around me. I'm not going to break. And that moment, that cracked something open in the room. After that, the conversations became so much richer, became more real. And we started talking about how she would want to spend her last days, how she wished every after her treatment, a palliative treatment, she can run to her happy place somewhere in La Union. We started talking about memories, about what she was proud of, about this brand that she gave birth to, about how she envisioned this brand to exist beyond her existence, about her daughter, about what she wished for her only daughter, about the things she wanted people to know after she was gone. And strangely enough, those were some of the most joyful conversations I've ever had with her. Death didn't steal the love in the room, it deepened it. So, what are the practical ways to start the conversation? So, if you're wondering, okay, but how do I even begin? Here are a few gentle ways. Start with your own feelings. Your feelings are neither right or wrong. I've been thinking a lot lately about how I want to live and how I want to be remembered. So start with yourself or use a shared memory. Conversation something like, remember when we talked about the kind of life celebration we want one day? I've been thinking about it again. Or use a current event. Seeing everything that's happening lately makes me realize how important it is to talk about what matters most to me. Or, you know what? I've found this to really work. Simply ask permission. Would it be okay if we talked about something important to me and you? It might be a little heavy, but it's from a place of love. Is it okay to talk about it? Ask permission. But timing is key. So when the right moment presents itself, you will know. So what happens when we talk about it? When we allow ourselves to talk about dying, we're not just talking about the end. We're actually talking about how we want to live while we're here. We're giving ourselves and the people we love a gift. I always say this, the gift of clarity, the gift of preparation, the gift of knowing what truly matters long before we run out of time. I always say preparing all your advanced care directives when you cannot make a decision is an act of love because you unburden your family of those hard decisions that they will have to make for you. What about having the I'm not okay conversation after cancer? This is one of those things we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about what happened to us or what we will face. So today we're opening up a truth that so many cancer survivors carry quietly. The struggle of pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but. Healing doesn't mean you're always okay. And there should be no shame in speaking the truth of where you are really. There's this unspoken pressure after cancer, the expectation that because treatment is over, yay, you should feel grateful, happy, and normal. People look at you and say, you're so strong. You made it. You're back to your old self. And part of you wants that to be true. Sometimes, or oftentimes, it's not. I remember a moment when months after my own treatment ended, when someone said, you must be so happy. You are a miracle. You have your life back. You have a second chance to live. And I just smiled. I nodded. I said all the right things. But the truth is, I felt lost. I felt scared. I felt like I didn't even recognize the life I was supposed to be grateful for. What no one tells you is this: the end of the treatment is not the end of your cancer journey. In many ways, it's the beginning of a different kind of healing, the invisible kind. Let's talk about why it's hard for cancer survivors like me to say, I'm not okay. There's just so much pressure to be the survivor, to be the miracle story, to be inspiring. But healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's confusing, it's sometimes filled with more questions than answers. And saying, I'm not okay, feels like breaking the image everyone has of you, even the image you had of yourself. You see, there's a cost to pretending. When we pretend we're okay when we're not, we isolate ourselves. We bury real pain that needs air, that needs expression and light to heal. We cut off opportunities for real connection. The truth is, pretending protects other people's comfort, but it costs you your wholeness. So, how do we find the courage to speak the truth? I'd say start just telling the truth, lovingly, but honestly. Oftentimes, it sounds as simple as, I don't know. I'm still figuring things out. Some days are good, some days are hard. I'm healing. I'm a work in progress, but I'm not yet there. But I'm grateful, but I'm also grieving. There's nothing like real, honest to goodness truth. Speaking the truth doesn't mean you're ungrateful for the gift of another chance or for the gift of survival. It means you're honoring the whole truth of your experience, not just the shiny parts. Why is I'm not okay a healing declaration? When you say I'm not okay, you're not being negative, you're being real. You're giving your soul permission to heal honestly and acknowledge the progress. You're giving the people who love you the chance to love you as you are, not just as they wish you to be. So if you're listening today and you're carrying that heavy silence, please know this: you don't owe anyone any performance. You don't have to be the poster child of survivorship. You're allowed to be beautiful, complicated, messy, work in progress human being. And even on days when you're not okay, you're still worthy of love, always. And even on days when you're not okay, you're still worthy of love, always. Until next time, please be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to tell the whole truth of your healing journey.